Tonight on CFTK-TV News, we learned a bit about this year's Guns N' Hoses game. The Terrace Fire Department has changed up their schedule, and Burnaby recently had some public transit problems.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond. The Kitimat RCMP officially announced not too long ago that their annual charity event known as the Guns N' Hoses hockey game that is played between Kitimat's local police and firefighters will be held next month on February 10th. And like they did last year, both parties will be holding a media availability event at the Tamatek Arena on January 22nd, with it currently set to start at around 10 in the morning. As it did in 2023, the event will be primarily for more in-depth information to be given out about the upcoming game. The availability will also see the respective mascots for both departments, Safety Bear and Smokey, have what is sure to be a super intense center ice face-off. The Terrace Fire Department recently made an announcement in regards to how their schedule is going to be looking for quite a while. The department is now going to be running on a 24-hour-a-day shift schedule, and they will be running this schedule for a trial period of 3 years. And Terrace will join several other Canadian cities that have tried out this type of work routine over the past decade plus or so. The previous system in Terrace was comprised of 2 10-hour day shifts and 2 14-hour night shifts with a 4-day rest period for firefighters. Now, employees of the department will work 1 24-hour shift, get a day off, then work 1 more shift, and then get 5 days off. And according to Fire Chief Chad Cooper, this change will not cause any kind of disruptions or safety issues. In a recent post on their Facebook page, the city of Terrace let it be known that the Zion Baptist Church did find enough staff to reopen the warming center at that church to protect people from the Arctic outflow. The center did have to close down 2 days ago on the 16th due to a lack of staff available via Terrace's nonprofit social services agencies, but luckily enough people were able to be recruited to run it last night from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And today we'll see it open up yet again between the times of 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., although it's not currently known if it will be open for the next few days as well. Terrace planned on using the Kassan Society's Joe's Place shelter as an interim spot when the church was set to be closed down, so the potential for it to be brought up and/or used again is there. Premier David Eby says a planned clean energy hydrogen project in Prince George would cut harmful carbon emissions and create jobs. The project by Chilliwack-based Tetralta Hydrogen Solutions is intended to help fuel the nearby Canfor pulp mill. Eby says the project has the potential to elevate Prince George as a hub for hydrogen investment in BC. He says it's expected to reduce natural gas use at the mill by 25%. Coming up next is a look at people's shoveling efforts in light of recent snowstorms. Welcome back. Some schools throughout BC recently declared that today is a snow day again and by proxy canceled their classes. It wasn't made clear if that's the case region-wide, but yesterday saw many cancellations across the board. CTV's Penny Daflos now on the school shutdowns.
First thing in the morning, the snow was already heavy enough that it was no surprise one school district after another canceled classes.
My school told me that it has to snow a lot for us to not even go to school.
With so many schools on side streets that haven't been plowed, it would have been difficult, if not downright treacherous, to get there.
We're used to it. In Vancouver, they're not going to plow every road.
It's pretty rare to have such an intense snowfall that every school across Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley declares a snow day, but that's exactly what happened.
Elementary and high schools from Vancouver to Chilliwack declared snow days. All major post-secondary institutions from UBC and SFU to BCIT and Trinity Western also told students to stay home.
I really like days off school. I wish I could have snow all the time.
Parents we spoke to already had plans in place.
I do the morning shift and someone else is doing the afternoon so I can work a bit. I think we were prepared to prepare for the day, I guess.
We had to adjust some things on schedule-wise. There'll be some grandparent shift as well, probably.
And so kids got to indulge in a rare treat to learn about physics in the real world.
if we lay down on our tummies, we go really fast.
Adults watching that, Joy, know this is how lifelong memories are made.
My husband, who's from Vancouver originally, lives for snow days because they're so rare for him. So he went out last night and bought that sled for him.
It's great, a little time in the middle of the week, just kind of hang out together as a family.
It's still too early to know if they'll be back in the classroom tomorrow, so for now,
it's kind of fun. We embrace it.
Penny Daflos, CTV News, Vancouver.
Most cities have bylaws requiring people to shovel outside of their homes and businesses right after a storm. And we've seen plenty of examples of people doing their part to keep their sidewalks clear. Here's CTV's St. John Alexander with more.
These are the snow warriors, the everyday people who were out bright and early trying to make the impact of this wild weather easier on others. They certainly put their backs into it, but this system was ruthless, like a wintry game of whack-a-mole.
I know, I think we have to have shifts here. It keeps coming, yeah. Reminds me of home. I'm from Ontario.
There's evidence everywhere that roads, sidewalks, parking lots had already been cleared, but the snow just kept coming.
This is the second time we cleaned the sidewalk.
Up the road, Gulnaz Pander was on shift at 5 a.m. and is now on shovel duty for the 7th time.
I know, it's crazy. I don't think it's gonna stop. I have been doing this all morning.
By 10 a.m., the parking lot across the street had been cleared 3 times.
Well, they say it's gonna stop in a few hours, but who knows?
You can't keep up. There's only so much you can do, so at some point you gotta wait.
This is heavy snow, very sticky, parking itself anywhere it wants and refusing to budge. Pavement that was freed was soon buried again. Unwelcome to feet guaranteed to be cold and wet, and rubber that isn't supposed to need people power.
I'm happy. I wanted snow. What's the winter without snow in Northern Hemisphere?
And keep it coming. Whoever's sending her down, keep it coming.
Of course, until it lets up, the shovels can't be put away, and contractors who've been at it all night won't call it a day.
35, 40 hours.
How do you do it?
Coffee. Lots of coffee.
The significance of this relentless snow is almost deafening. Streets everywhere are unusually silent.
St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Once again, the Burnaby region's transit system was put to the test. While it was in full operation, the snow ended up being too much for some buses. Here's CTV's Martin McMahon to elaborate further.
This was the scene on Brighton Avenue in Burnaby where a bus got stuck and a snowplow comes to the rescue. Elsewhere in Burnaby, these 3 buses weren't going anywhere at Hastings and Kensington.
Did you think you'd get stuck?
No, honestly I didn't with the 40-footer, but it's just too slippery, the mountain, for us to get up.
On Cambie Street, more buses that won't budge. This one spinning its wheels, trying to get up the hill. Many buses not in service.
And I see the street, there's 3 buses, but they're all parked in very weird positions, like they were slipping off or something.
It's just a gong show. It always is. Vancouver is so unequipped to handle snow.
We are seeing some challenges when it comes to our buses, traffic, congestion, motor vehicle accidents, causing delays, and of course our buses are also stuck in that.
At one SkyTrain station, workers walk around with hockey sticks to clear ice from trains.
Our crews are working as hard as they can to get people where they need to go and provide as much service as possible. We are seeing some challenges due to the weather, due to congestion, really encouraging customers to leave extra time in their commute and check their route before they head out the door.
Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is said to be getting an overcast of clouds and a low of -1 degree. The Terrace-Kitimat area is set to see their own overcast of clouds at a low of -7 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is supposed to get cloudy conditions and a low down at -15 degrees. On the North Coast over the next week is set to see pretty much all rain, and even more rain, with the high moving between 1 and 6 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the upcoming week for them will see pretty much all snow instead, and their high will go from -7 to 1 degree. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so for them will also see mostly just flurries and snow, then the high will bounce between -13 and -2 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions. And as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there are slippery sections, utility work, and different types of maintenance, plus the Usk ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 35 and 118 have slippery sections too. Highway 37 has some slippery sections as well, while also having bridge and shoulder maintenance. 37A has slippery sections and utility work, some more slippery sections on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has more slippery sections with compact ice. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the View of the Province's highway cams. Still to come is a look at the housing crisis all throughout Canada. Welcome back. A stark news snapshot of Canada's housing crisis shows the number of new homes being built went down last year, and there's concern that governments are moving too slowly to address the shortage for a growing population. Here's CTV's Kristen Ejakote.
As Canada's population grows rapidly, Ottawa says it has been trying to catch up to the housing demand.
We know that people are worried that the promise of Canada doesn't hold the way it used to.
The Prime Minister was in St. John, New Brunswick today announcing $9.1 million for the construction of 285 homes over the next 3 years.
Housing is considered by your federal government as a right. So this demonstrates that, I guess, you put your money where your mouth is.
The money is part of Ottawa's $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund, aimed at helping municipalities change bylaws and regulations to increase construction. A new report by Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says housing starts were down by 7% across the country in 2023 compared to the previous year.
We need to build one new home for every 2 new adults. And Canada's adding over 1 million adults this year to our population. So that should be about 500,000 homes or so that we should be building. And this year, we're not even going to crack 300,000.
Only the Greater Toronto Area and Vancouver saw a 5% and 28% increase, mostly driven by new condo units. Experts point to higher interest rates and a weak economy for the drop, with the risk at times too high for home builders.
Having them sit there, even for a number of months, is more than many of them can handle. So public policy needs to take some of that risk off the private sector.
New figures show Canadians lost more than $500 million to scams last year, with investment fraud topping the list. But with inflation and rising interest rates, more Canadians are also being scammed trying to find a job to boost their income. CTV's Pat Ford has more.
I feel very sad, seriously.
Amandeep Gill of Scarborough was contacted by someone who said they were moving from Vancouver and needed a caregiver for their child. The family said they would send her checks, which she should deposit and pay their expenses before they arrived.
I thought this is not my money. This is their money, so I should pay where they want it at this time.
But after she paid what she was supposed to, the checks bounced. Gill was scammed out of more than $5,000.
I want that money should be back in my account because it's my hard-earned money.
Luis Vargas of Toronto thought he had a job as a virtual assistant and was also asked to deposit checks.
So they say, I want you to run some errands. I need to deposit this money to you, and then you take it out and stop buying some stuff.
When the checks bounced, Vargas was also scammed out of $2,800.
Usually nobody gives you money like that, but I was on the contract, so I thought it was part of a job.
If you receive funds, you should never be requested to send them elsewhere.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says in 2022, job scams were in 10th place with $7.2 million in losses. Last year, they moved to 4th place with $27.6 million in losses. Criminals are counting on banks to take their time before noticing a check is fake.
Depending on the financial institution, it could take up to 2 weeks for that check to come back as fraudulent or NSF.
Never accept checks and send money in advance or take a job offer based only on texts or emails. Vargas says he plans to be much more careful searching for work in the future.
I'm still looking for jobs. Probably I will take something in person, not remotely.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
When a basset hound south of Edmonton disappeared into the frigid cold, his owner began a desperate search. Her community came together for the search and helped bring her dog home. CTV's Miriam Valdez-Carletti has the story.
This is the moment 15-month-old Gus followed his nose into the bitter cold, escaping through the front gate of his Beaumont home.
My heart just basically sank. And I'm like, oh my God. The immediate thought was, is he gonna get hit? Is he gonna get stolen? What about the bitter cold?
Teresa Nisperos' adrenaline kicked in, and she went after her basset hound.
I started chasing after him, but then when I reached to the end, it was so cold, I came back running, realizing I was barefoot.
After a 12-hour search came up empty, Teresa turned to social media for help. Teza Maniz lives 5 doors down and answered the call, communicating with neighbors after she spotted Gus on the loose.
And we just put a big plea out. It got onto all the appropriate pages, and we just had an army of people show up.
There were other sightings, but it took a week before Gus was spotted by another neighbor in a rural area nearby. Teresa rushed to the scene in hopes she could get her hands on the hound.
Pooh Bear, it's Mama. Gus, it's Pooh Bear, it's Mama. Then he looked at me with much confusion at first, but then I saw the look in his eyes where he felt home.
We love you. Yeah, you're home, baby, you're home.
It was definitely hard because it came to a point where the survival, all hope was gone. You know, realistically, it was just too cold outside.
Teresa's grateful for her neighbors, who she now calls friends.
And having everyone rally around and behind us in finding Gus felt like we had our family from back home here in Canada with us.
A vet check reveals some lesions on Gus's nose. Teresa says the vet is amazed at how well he's doing, considering how long he spent in the cold.
Good boy.
He's down 16 pounds, but is already working to gain that back. Miriam Valdez-Carletti, CTV News, Edmonton.
To new fraud accusations from some of the people who booked a trip on the 3-year cruise, dozens of passengers say they still haven't gotten a refund more than a month after the trip was suddenly canceled, and they're demanding action from the government. ABC's Gio Benitez has more.
It seems like one of very few options left open to us at this point.
As first reported by the New York Times, at least 78 of the passengers sent a letter to the DOJ urging the department to investigate Life at Sea for fraud after millions were allegedly collected by the company. Some passengers telling GMA they even sold their homes to pay for the trip, which was supposed to set sail in November, but got canceled just days before because the company did not secure a suitable ship. Carrie Whitman paying $32,000 for the trip.
I sold my house, got rid of most of my things.
The letter accuses Life at Sea Cruises, operated by the Turkish company Miray, of mismanaging $16 million, a claim the company denies. In a text message overnight, a representative for Life at Sea telling GMA, the passengers are free and have all the right to go to an attorney. We strongly do not accept to be accused as fraud. Yes, there is a delay in paying refunds. Yes, we lost some millions with Life at Sea, but each and every passenger who asked for a refund will receive it very soon.
I do not believe that this started out as a scam. I think that the company had all of the best intentions, but at this point, there have been enough inconsistencies. It's hard for me to look at it as something otherwise.
Kara Youssef and her husband say they sold their 2 apartments and have been stranded in an Istanbul hotel while they wait for a refund of over $80,000.
If there's evidence that shows that the cruise operator was committing fraud, was lying, was materially concealing information, that is going to expand the scope of damages. And so these customers may very well be entitled to not just a refund of their money, but all sorts of other damages to pay for the preparations they might have made or the things they gave up.
The passengers behind the push say if they're not getting paradise, they at least want their normal lives back.
For many of us, this is life destroying. This will change our way of life for years and years to come.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 1/10 of a cent, the price of gold is up $15.10, oil is up $1.47, natural gas is down 17 cents, aluminum is down $36, in Toronto the TSX is up 61.71 points, Venture Index is down 2.80, in New York the Dow Jones is up 201.94, and NASDAQ is up 200.03. Still ahead is the latest ringside report on the Canucks. Welcome back. The Vancouver Canucks are finally home, playing host to the Arizona Coyotes tonight, following a long but successful road trip. Cam Mitchell has this week's ringside report.
There's a shot by McCabe is stopped. Hronek on the rebound, scores!
2 weeks away from the NHL All-Star Game, and the Canucks are riding high. Coming off a grueling 7-game road trip that they started way back on January 4th that took them through the eastern United States and maybe had them feeling like this by the time they came home.
I've been wearing the same underwear since Tuesday.
But maybe it was lucky underwear, because they did something they have never done before.
Joshua scores!
Swept the New York teams. In fact, over those 7 games, they only lost once in regulation and once in the shootout. Head coach Rick Tocchet was pretty impressed.
Well, I mean, it's been a hell of a trip. You know, it's like I said, you know, there's been a lot thrown at the guys. You could tell, you know, mentally fatigued, but like I said, you know, to grind out a point at this stage, the 7th game, going home. So I think it's just nice to get on that plane and get home.
Canucks steal the puck back, Pettersson across, and they play a give and go and score!
The success on the road has kept them at the top of the standings. They've been so good that 5 Canucks have been selected to play in the All-Star Game. Pettersson, Miller, Hughes, Besser, and Demko. Plus, head coach Rick Tocchet will coach the Pacific Division team. But that's not until February. First, the Canucks are back on the ice Thursday evening against the Arizona Coyotes. Cam Mitchell, CTV News, Vancouver.
A new study from Simon Fraser University said major depression cost BC's health system over $1.5 billion over 2 years. The study, led by SFU adjunct professor Sonia Cressman, looked at over 250,000 cases and found the cost to BC was only a fraction of the total cost of major depressive disorders. Cressman said that costs borne by patients and their families during the same period are estimated to range from $3 billion to $12 billion. The study said major depressive disorders are among Canada's most common mental illnesses and may become the world's leading cause of disability in the next decade. Bitterly cold temperatures in southern BC are taking a toll on hummingbirds. The Wildlife Rescue Association of BC says it's seeing a dramatic increase in the number of the tiny birds being found with cold-caused injuries. The association says 33 hummingbirds were admitted last weekend alone. It says hummingbirds are often brought in for care with low blood sugar or damaged tongues because they got stuck to metal parts of the feeders in the cold. That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.